Hey guys, what's up? Excoundrel here. We're going to be looking at CP Kestrel today, and we will look at weapon power on Kestrel if we get enough time, maybe towards the end of the video. Now, Kestrel is a stealthy, long-ranged archer, if you hadn't guessed already, and a lot of her skills do actually embody that type of play. And speaking of her skills, let's have a quick brush over them. Her heroic perk I will not spend a lot of time on. Basically, every time you basic attack, you reduce the cost of your abilities by 10%, up to 5 stacks, and what's 10 times 5? Yeah, that's right, it's 50%. So she can reduce the cost of her abilities by up to 50% with her heroic perk. Let's move on to Glimmer Shot now. This is the ability that you will see most CP Kestrels spam like no tomorrow. She has 4 arrows in reserve. Once you've used all of them, you have to wait 3.3 seconds without using a basic attack at all, and then you'll get them reloaded. Now, Glimmer Shot is a basic attack. That means it can critical strike, and the basic attack damage gets amplified every level that you put into it, all the way up to 130%. It does weapon power damage on the target that it hits within its cast ring. So you have a little ring around when you click on Glimmer Shot. If you hit a target within that ring, it will deal weapon power damage. At the end of that ring, it explodes and deals splash damage behind the target, and that is a crystal power ratio. That's where all of the crystal power damage comes from with Glimmer Shot for CP Kestrels. Also, if you hit a target within the ring, it will also deal the crystal damage to that target and anybody behind that target in a small splash damage area. Kestrel's B ability is called Active Camo. This is where she stealths and she leaves that mist on the ground that she can proc to stun someone for 0.8 seconds, as well as doing a whole host of crystal damage. Really good scalings on it. If you build crystal power, you get a stealth duration increase, as well as the mist duration, so the mist will hang around for longer, building crystal power. However, there are some weapon power scalings too. When you stealth, you get a speed boost that is increased if you build weapon power. And also, you have to wait 2.5 seconds whilst having taken damage to be able to activate your active camo. So if you're taking damage, you can't activate it unless you've gone 2.5 seconds without taking damage. That is reduced by weapon power, so you can use it while taking damage more readily if you've built weapon power. Hitting your Glimmer Shot, the primary weapon power damage, will reduce the cooldown of active camo by 1.5 seconds too. So you can use it and then spam Glimmer Shot and get it back up very quickly. Her C ability is called One Shot, One Kill, and it fully stacks the heroic perks and impact, so reduces ability costs by 50% if you hadn't heard earlier. It has a very high damage with a 260% crystal ratios, but it does have a weapon power ratio as well, and the primary damage of One Shot, One Kill is weapon power, so you have mixed damage if you build crystal power. It also has increasing armor penetration the more levels you put into it, all the way up to 30%, so a weapon power Kestrel will be able to burn through armor more readily using One Shot, One Kill. It also reveals your target, which is very useful when trying to pick off someone around Kraken or trying to highlight someone in a brush for your team, as well as the fact if someone wanders over your mist, the mist from your active camo will reveal that target, and One Shot, One Kill will proc the mist, so you can make some insane cross-map plays if you play it correctly. However, that can be quite difficult to make happen. In terms of ability paths, you have 2 distinct choices. The one thing that remains constant is that you max Glimmer Shot every time. You max A first in both of the builds. The differentials that you have is the choice between maxing C and B. You max C against squishies because the burst damage is insane, things like Ringo or Celeste. Or if you're going into a double melee or double bruiser composition, you will max active camo. Now, that is because, firstly, the damage from C is less effective against bruisers because of the resistances they build up, and B, they're actually easier to bait into the stun portion of your active camo. Melees will chase you down, and if you set it up, it's far easier to stun a melee in your active camo than it is to stun a squishy, because they will never usually get into range of it. Now let's look at Crystal Power Kestrel's starting items and eventually moving towards her full build path. I will start with 2 Crystal Bits and a Halcyon Potion. Now if you've watched my guides before, that will feel very familiar, but it gives you the most burst on her Glimmer Shot, and it's good for clearing the early jungle. You don't necessarily need the regeneration from an energy battery because you have the healing camps. Now I would then towards the mid game look to pick up 2 more Crystal Bits, some boots, and a Void Battery. That Void Battery is needed for elongated fights and elongated skirmishes because you absolutely destroy your energy bar as Crystal Power Kestrel. Now, if you have got some big cojones, you can go for 3 energy bits. This gives you the maximum amount of burst. 5 energy bits and boots in total. You will be ripping through people in the mid game, but you have to hit those Glimmer Shots. If you miss one, it's energy wasted and energy you will not get back because you don't have that Void Battery. So now we're going to look at SKYE's 6-item build path. Now I would usually start with a Shatter Glass. This gives me good scaling. It hits really hard with your Glimmer Shot and hits really hard with your one-shot, one-kill. Very, very good against squishies. It generally accelerates Kestrel's build a little bit in terms of damage output. My second item would be a Broken Myth. Deals with early shielding. You can stack it with Glimmer Shot very nicely. The piercing is awesome. That's a very a no-brainer second item choice here. Then I'm thinking about building my Halcyon charges for the energy regeneration. I'm also thinking about a Frostburn as a third item, which can also be changed to an Eve of Harvest. Now, a Frostburn I would pick up in a situation where I'm trying to kite, or I'm poking from range and stopping them from engaging. Eve of Harvest would be where I think I'm going to need the health if I'm kiting and taking some damage. Now, my fourth item would either be the remainder of the Eve of Harvest and Frostburn that I didn't pick up, so in this case it would be the Frostburn, or you could consider a Clockwork. Now, Clockwork will give you the cooldown reduction, it will also give you that extra CP. However, having a Frostburn gives you more flat CP in general. The cooldown reduction is good for trying to spam those active camos or just getting one-shot, one-kill off more often. You could also consider another Shatter Glass as your fourth item against very squishy targets. Now, I'll talk about why having 4 CP items is key to Kestrel. Her scalings on Glimmer Shot aren't fantastic and the base damage is low, so you need to keep up with the curve in terms of buying scaling. And then as the game goes on, if you've only got 3 CP items, you just won't be doing enough damage in the late game to threaten any of the carries or even threaten anybody, to be honest. Which is why having lots of CP on Kestrel is really key. My fifth item would be a Reflex Block and then into an Aegis. And you need Reflex Block because things like Koshka, they will just lock you down with their ultimate if they get hold of you. And if you get locked down as CP Kestrel, you are dead. This is one of the things that you have to be aware of when you play this type of build. All of it is about positioning. You cannot afford to not have a Reflex Block, get caught out by a Finn ultimate, get caught out by a Glaive Afterburn, get caught out by a Koshka ultimate. And that's why Reflex Block is very important. I would definitely pick that up somewhere in the build, especially post 6 against things like Finn and Koshka. And if you don't think you can rely on your captain to use a Crucible, then getting your own Reflex Block kind of puts your destiny in your own hands. Now let's look at Weapon Power Kestrel super quickly, as I did promise you guys that I would. In terms of skill builds, always max C, always max A. C gives you high base damage and high armor penetration for Weapon Power Kestrel, which is great. And then B doesn't really do much, doesn't scale weapon power. The only thing you get from it is being able to use it when you're trying to escape a melee carry, for instance. So don't max B, max A, and max C. Start with Swift Shooter, Weapon Blade, and a Halcyon Potion. You guys have heard me say this a million times before. Do you ever get bored? I hope you don't get bored. Yeah, but anyways, same start for weapon power builds right now. This kind of makes the most sense. And then going to full item build path, very standard weapon power build. Sorrow Blade, Breaking Point, Tyrant's Monocle, 2 defensive items, and boots. Now, this is kind of the very standard weapon power build. Sometimes people do often like to go Critical Strike, where you'd go Sorrow Blade, Tornado Trigger, and then Tyrant's Monocle. You often see that on Ringos, but I just prefer Breaking Point. I think it's more consistent, and it's better if you're in an even game or even trying to come from behind. Changes you can make here, Halcyon charges if you need the energy regeneration if you're spamming your skills, and of course, getting rid of the Full Metal Jacket and going for another Tyrant's Monocle to give you that extra source of burst damage coming from the Weapon Power Kestrel build. One final deliberation is between a Weapon Power Infusion and a Crystal Infusion. Now, Weapon Power Infusion is great if you're getting those basic attacks in, just trying to capitalize on being far ahead. Crystal Power Infusion will give you a longer stealth and synergize with a lot of damage coming from your abilities as well. I actually often go Crystal Infusion on Weapon Power Kestrel, so just keep that in mind when choosing your infusion, because one of them is kind of more skill focused, the other obviously very basic attack focused. Now moving on to tips and tricks, and the first one that I'm going to cover with you is how to use your active camo stealth to bait people in. Check out this clip here. I'm getting kind of killed. My Ringo is himself dying. I can see a Ringo in the top of my screen, and he's going to be trying to flank me, so I'm going to take him out with an active camo stun by baiting him in, getting a one-shot, one-kill off right next to him as well to make sure I just absolutely blow him up when he's in that 0.8 second stun. Next is going to be my Ringo getting chased down by an alpha. He will kite towards me, I'll set up the active camo, and as soon as she uses her core charge to get in, that's when we strike. Very easy to bait people in if they don't see you and where you have put it. Now also, I'm going to follow up with using one shot, one kill properly. Check out the map. When you see fights going on, your one shot, one kill can be used to pick people off across the map, and you have to be using one of your fingers or your styluses to keep looking across the map and searching for opportunities. If you see a low health target, one shot, one kill can be used for a cross map snipe. Really get used to searching around the map for those opportunities using the minimap. Not only that, but one shot, one kill is also very good at securing objectives like Kraken. Now, you can do this when you're taking Kraken yourself, just to make sure the enemy can't steal it, because the damage from one shot, one kill is pretty high, including the armor penetration. Or using it to try and make a cross-map miracle snipe on the enemy Kraken if they aren't blocking it can always be a possibility. And another tip with one shot, one kill is that you can use it before a fight even starts. So you can use it to try and chunk down a squishy target like Scarf, Celeste, or Ringo before you even look for an engage, knowing that you've already done about half of their HP, because that's the kind of level of damage one shot, one kill can do to those kind of targets as the game progresses. As a CP Kestrel in teamfights, you want to be keeping your range as much as possible, using those glimmer shots to chunk people down before they have the chance to engage on you. You need to rely on reflex blocks to block things like Fin ults and Koshka ultimates as well. Now, once you have that range, you then want to be looking to flank when you think you can get kills onto squishies. Remember, if you can bait people into your active camo, that's great. You want to then be looking for flank opportunities using that active camo to get to the sidelines and burst people down with your glimmer shots. Because if you get to that back line and you don't feel threatened, you can absolutely rip through those squishy targets. You also want to be trying to bait people into your active camo as much as possible. So if you can set up active camos before a team fight, that's the best thing you can do. In the late game as CP Kestrel, you want to be spamming your B ability, trying to have a mist near you at all times, and using it as much as possible to set up as many traps as possible, leaving the enemy with very little room for maneuver in a team fight situation. Check out this clip from Itachi. He's going to, before this team fight even starts, set up a active camo spot just near the enemy turret, and when they look for the engage, he's going to bait them in. Samuel's used his Drifting Dark, and now he's going to run out and bait them all into this massive active camo stun, and then that glimmer shot shatter damage just absolutely destroys them. That's the power of CP Kestrel if played right. And finally, one of the major powers of CP Kestrel is her ability to zone people in a team fight or before a team fight even starts. You can poke with Glimmer Shot, you can force them away from certain areas. Choke points become a nightmare for the enemy team if played correctly. So make sure you're using that Glimmer Shot, especially when you have energy and regeneration, to try and zone people and try and poke them before things even kick off. Now, I can't round up all the tips that I've given you because there's quite a lot here, but these are some of the ones that you probably should remember the most. Remember to stay at max range before team fights. Try and keep that max range as much as possible unless you see an opportunity to kill someone by going in with your active camo. Now, only look to go in with your active camo if you're sure that you won't be spotted with a flare or scout trip and you can kill a key target. No point going in to kill an Arden, for instance, but if you can go in and kill a Skye, that's fantastic. Try and bait the enemies into your traps. Make sure that you're laying as many traps as possible in the late game. It is possible to maintain almost 100% stealth uptime in the late game as CP Kestrel, so continue laying those mists. And try to use your C ability for cross-map snipes, objective secures, and actually you can use it to poke before a teamfight even starts, so remember that as well. I hope this has been useful for you guys, and I will talk about the hero matchups. I'll link it in the description somewhere. I didn't have time to do it this time round and just wanted to get the video out, so thank you so much for watching, and I'll be looking to make another guide when I get back from Poland. I'm going away to Poland next week for an entire week. I'll be releasing a stream highlight video or just a backstage video about IEM Katowice, but I won't be doing a hero guide until I get back the following week. So next week, no hero guides. I'm away doing work, but the following week, there will be more. So thank you very much, guys. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you soon.